the same street. We tend to pride ourselves with having patience and professionalism. So we can only get in the ring with the fighter that wants to get in there. You know, it takes two to tango. You've seen Devin and Teofimo's interactions together. You've seen when Teofimo has had the opportunity to fight him, and he's found every excuse in the book. And now his excuse is a mandatory. Well, we know with mandatories, you talk to the sanctioning bodies, and if it's a fight that's bigger, if it's a fight that's more lucrative, then obviously the sanctioning bodies won't get in your way. So I just think that that's it's blasphemy, the way that he's doing, the way that he's insulting other lightweights, and including Devin. You know what I mean? And instead of opting to be a professional, and fight him.
And if he was gonna fight Kambosos because that's his mandatory, why call out Devin from the jump? Why say I'm gonna send Devin a contract and whoever get back to us first, I'm gonna fight next? If that was the case, if he knew he was gonna fight Kambosos and it was a foregone conclusion, then why say I'm gonna send Devin Haney a contract? What was the purpose of that? You think he was just using Devin Haney name for promotion?
Yeah, he's been trolling Dev since the very beginning. You know what I mean? When he talked about the infamous sparring session in which he talked about it and he lied about it. You know what I mean? And then Devin pulled up on him and said, what he said. So Teofimo, I think he thinks he can piss on the people's head and tell them that it's rain. You know what I mean? And get away with it. But I think his lies is catching up. His alibis aren't matching up. It's just one of those things, man. It's just one of those things that time is working for us and working against Teo.
Eddie Hearn came out and revealed today to boxing scene that if Ryan Garcia fight Fortuna, he said, I would love a Linares fight for Devin Haney. What's your take on that fight for Devin? Linares versus Devin.
As far as what I know about Linares, I mean, since Devin has been a world champion, he's talked about fighting Devin. You know what I mean? And for us, that's everything. We don't care what you said prior to that. You know what I'm saying? But we look forward to you saying you want to fight him and put on an event, because that's what he is. He's a fighter, and that's what he needs to happen is the big fights. And Linares is a credible name. I think he would be a step up in competition in comparison to Devin's last fight in Gamboa. And that's all that we can possibly do is look to continually to step up in competition.
Well, Ryan was supposed to fight Linares himself before Luke Campbell, but Ryan wanted $2 million to fight Linares, and he passed out on that fight to fight Luke, obviously. So do you think Linares is the best fighter out of the 4 eliminators?
I think that he's definitely the most experienced out of those. He's a former world champion. He's been in some big fights. So, yeah, I just think that he has an experience that they don't have, and then a certain level of professionalism as well when dealing and making these fights happen. I think both Teofimo and Ryan Garcia and Tank Davis, they're showing their age and not their maturity. They're being very immature about their business.
Well, we know how things usually play out for Devin. When things get real, they always find a way out. So do you see Linares stepping up to the plate? Because he been, like you said earlier, he's one of the main fighters that actually been saying he will fight Devin and also give credit to Devin. So do you see that fight possibly happening realistically?
Well, I sure hope it does. So far, he's the only one that has raised his hand, and I tend to give all the props in the world to these fighters that do step up. We have no indication that Linares doesn't want to fight. We think that he does, so we're taking him very serious. Eddie has said that he's interested in the fight as well, and I think the zone is on board with it. So, if Javier Fortuna and Ryan Garcia, don't want it, if they're ducking out, then it's kudos to Jorge Linares for stepping up.
Well, that's a big fight. If Devin Haney could land the Linares fight, that would be a huge fight for Devin. Definitely a fight that everyone would love to see. Now, I have a super chat for you real quick, Bill. Derek, he said, has Bill heard back from Batman about Gary, ?
He said Gary was supposed to have been getting in touch with me today. I told him, you know what I mean? For Gary, he can email me, but I have yet to hear from Gary.
To this day. To this day.
We have a fan question from Larry through Cash App. He stated, Ryan ducking, Fortuna ducking, Loma ducking, Tio ducking. Shit, Devin Haney might as well be undisputed. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, you know, we're more interested in making the fight happen, though. You know what I'm saying? We're more interested in making the fight happen. We, you know, give more props and stuff to the fighters that do step up, you know, to the challenge. You know, and if it's Jorge Linares, then that's who it is. You know.
Yeah, well, his point was, if this was a structured sport like the NBA, the NFL, then Devin Haney will be undisputed because he will have had all the champions surrender their belts. So,
but that's no fun. That's no fun. That's no fun for Devin. Devin wants to showcase his skills. He spent his whole lifetime, you know, and his entire life, literally, to the sport of boxing. You know what I mean? And he wants to showcase his stuff to all to the, you know, many millions and millions of fans and stuff around the world, right? That love boxing. That's what his goal is to get the best fighter in there and put on his best performance of a lifetime. So we're not 100% happy because these guys are ducking. You know, we have to find the silver lining, being that the Devin skill set demands that kind of respect, but it's still a bittersweet feeling.
How did you choose Lomachenko? Because
I did not choose him. He requested, Canelo requested. So we sent out a vote and we analyzed his history.
Ooh, Canelo and Lomachenko requested?
Absolutely.
Ooh, you just made headlines.
Lomachenko,
You just made headlines.
Lomachenko, top rank, requested. And let me tell you, we analyzed the request. Top of the top.
Define the franchise belt. Can you define it?
The franchise is not a belt. It's not a championship. It's a designation given to elite, unique fighters who carry the industry of the sport of boxing. Canelo Alvarez and Lomachenko are two sensational fighters who carry the industry.
Ask Cameron Duncan, do Top Rank have like columns of fighters, and they say, we don't want this guy fighting the black fighter, we don't want this fighter fighting the Mexican fighter, and so on and so forth?
You're gonna get into the racial stuff, huh?
No, I'm not. I'm asking.
That's a theory there by the greatest matchmaker, probably, in my opinion, ever.
Uh-huh.
And I'm not going to mention his name either, but you know what I'm talking about.
Uh-huh.
And he used to have a thing up on his board, NBF, no black fighters.
Uh-huh.
And when I was taught to bring up a fighter, you know, and again, it's just, he used to say to me, you can go anywhere in the country. And I'm going to leave it at this. I don't want to go into a long discussion because people are people in God's eyes, and we're all the same. He used to say to me, you can go anywhere into a city in America or anywhere in the world and ask a white guy, and he didn't say any other, he didn't say anything about Hispanic, anything. Ask a white guy to throw a jab, and half of them are going to turn backwards and throw it like a girl and everything. Ask any black man on a street corner in any city in the world, and they will snap out a jab in a heartbeat. And I used to laugh. He said, they're just more physically gifted. And he said, and so they have speed, and better to stay away from them. Nothing personal. So I said, okay. And I've lived by that. And, you know, I don't want to sound like some weird guy, but, you know, you're trying to be safe with your guys. And so, yeah, there is a thing about that, you know, but not in a bad way, in a very respectful way, you know, to be careful. So that's all.
The last man even said they doing that to protect them.
Right.
Somebody beat them, but they don't get a belt.
There you go.
The franchise belt is protect them from the big black guys.
So you would favor Devin Haney to beat Vasily Lomachenko? And with the fighter, I'm only going to put him in a fight that I believe that he can win, right? So I don't know how to answer that question.
Did you say you would only put your fighter in a position where in a fight where he can win?
Where I believe he could win. Yeah, I don't put a fighter in where he has no chance and he's just in there for a payday for me and him. I don't do that.
So is it more about how you...
I don't put a fight out. That, again, goes back to Leonard Ellaby. What he was trying to say. It's risk-reward.
Right. So if you were in a situation where you felt like, I'm going to just use hypotheticals. If you thought that Devin Haney was a bad matchup for Teofimo Lopez, in essence, you wouldn't make that fight because you didn't want to put Teofimo in a situation where you felt like he couldn't win. Is that what I'm hearing?
Only if, I mean, you sometimes make a fight because if let's say the fighter has a 40% chance of winning. So he's like, in your mind, an underdog. If the reward is great, you make that fight. It's risk-reward.